right, everyone. Welcome to another class, Parshat Shoftim. We are now in the month of Elul. It says, the previous Rebbe writes that in the month of Elul in Lubavitch, there's a whole different feeling. It says that the Elul wind would be blowing through town. People would start, getting a little bit more serious and buckling down a little bit. Summer's over, it's past Labor Day. Now you can't wear white anymore. You can't wear black. What's the halacha? Which color are you not allowed to wear after Labor Day?
You can't wear white.
You can't wear white after Labor, right?
Oh, Ellen, shame on you.
Exactly. Yeah.
And if
So-
you believe that one, I've got
Yeah. So now Rosh Hashanah is coming, and
You have to wear white. You got it.
and we have to get ready to, how are we going to be better? All right. So Parshat Shoftim is always read in the month of Elul, pretty much. So the idea we're going to be talking about today is, this happens to almost everybody unless you're perfect, and no one here is perfect. If you want, I can elaborate on camera. If you want, I can elaborate even more off camera. If you want, I can turn the camera toward you and everyone can see who I'm talking about.
So you don't want to break the camera.
We don't break the camera, right? So all of us, many of us, we all have times that we're inspired, we feel good, and we want to do mitzvahs, and then we have times we feel lousy. And the question is, to those times that we did mitzvahs, was that a fake? Because the fact that the inspiration dissipated, and I don't feel that good anymore about doing a mitzvah or about doing the right thing, then obviously it's not really who I am. So it leads to a little bit of kind of depression, because who am I really? Which kind of the Tanya talks about. Am I a person that's controlled by base desires, or am I a godly person that wants to do good things? Sometimes you feel like this way, sometimes you feel like that way. And to borrow a line from Fiddler on the Roof, and he's right, you both can be right. Alter Rebbe comes along and says, you're also right. You're both right. So, but sometimes we forget what the Alter Rebbe says, and we feel down on ourselves. The question is, what should we think about to realize that those moments of inspiration are, number one, are true. They represent the true you, and how do we grow from it? Okay, here we go. I can go back to the Parsha overview, but there's a million things in this Parsha. Just like every other Parsha in the book of Devarim, every 5 verses you have another topic. So we're going to take one topic today, and we're going to go with it. All right, so in the end of the Parsha, towards the end, I haven't done it in the year, so toward the end of the Parsha, Torah speaks about the laws of besieging a city. So the Torah says, if you look at text number 1, you're going to come to a city, and you're going to lay siege to the city, to conquer it. By the way, there's a law what's the minimum amount of days before Shabbos you're allowed to lay siege to a city. You can't just lay siege. You can't lay siege whenever you want. What is it, Rome? No. The earliest you could do is Wednesday, because usually a siege is for 3 days, and we have to try to avoid desecrating the Shabbos. Now, if the opportunity comes to attack the city on Shabbos, you go and attack it. But you can't lay siege after Wednesday. Leave it until Sunday, right? It's like the first kid, with the horse. Now, sundown. Now, yeah.
Now,
Right.
if everybody followed the rules, there'd be no war.
Exactly.
Yeah, right. The rules of war, right? You can't fight here. There's a war, right? Exactly. So the law is, so you're cutting down wood for a siege. The Torah says, and this is where we learn the laws of Bal Tashchis. You familiar of Bal Tashchis? Bal Tashchis is the prohibition against waste. Against, there's always waste, but against needless waste, put it that way. And the Torah says you're allowed to cut down a regular tree, but a fruit tree you can't cut down. By the way, this is the beautiful thing about Hebrew. Hebrew has 2 different words. There's a word for a fruit tree, and there's a word for a regular tree. No? Avery, what's the word for tree? Hey, what's the word for fruit tree?
It's tree.
Elon. Elon's yeah. So that's why people are not called eights. Maybe they would tell you in school you have a head made of wood, but people call their kid. People People call the kid Elon, right? Elon is a very famous Jewish name, right?
Or for
So-
female Ilana.
Yeah, oh, that's right. There you go. Female Ilana. There you go. He says a female tree, right? So the Torah is.
Tell a male tree from a female tree.
You asking me?
Yeah.
It's all Greek to me. I mean, there's some people know. But they with the fig tree knew in Israel. They had the whole problem with the fig tree, that they had the seed, but they needed a female tree. They had the seed, then they found one, and now they have dates now that were the same dates that grew 3,000 years ago in Israel.
Wow.
They call the tree Methuselah. How do you say Methuselah in English? Methuselah? Methuselah. I'm sorry, the English names are the reason why I know Ezekiel is because of the bread, right? Anyway, so that's the Torah code. If you look at verse number 20, sorry, I went too far. If you look at verse number previous. Sorry, guys, on camera. So if you look at verse number 20, the Torah says, however, a tree. Oh, sorry, verse number 19. So it says, but the tree that you eat from it, you can't cut down. Why? Torah says, for the tree of the field, like a person sees you, you're going to kill trees like you kill people. I mean, you don't kill people, you don't kill trees. That's what the Torah says it. But interesting, the Torah could have just said, don't kill fruit trees. But the Torah starts giving, you ask a Jew a question, you can't give you a yes or no. He says, what do you think it is? No, just give me the answer, right? The Torah usually says, do this, don't do that. Torah says, don't do it. What do you think? You're just going to chop down a tree? I mean, obviously, something there. But Torah doesn't. Usually, you don't find sarcasm in the Torah. Usually. I mean, definitely in the five books of Moshe.
Or jokes.
Or jokes, right? But we have sarcasm with Eliyahu and Navi, when he did with the prophets. But usually, Torah is very, bam, bam. That's the way it is. So obviously, there's a lesson, because we have here two laws. Number one, it's forbidden to cut down a fruit tree. Number two, you're allowed to cut down a. By the way, you should know. It seems like this is a throwaway law. Who thinks about it? No, but let me ask you a question. What if you have a fruit tree ruining the foundation of your house? Allowed to cut it down?
Well, you can have the roots. They
You
do.
excise those roots.
They do the roots. Yeah.
Okay, but these days we have machines, yada, yada, yada. But in the olden days, right? But let's say whatever it is, the tree is destroying property. Or you need to move the...
Oh, like the tree that was in front of my house that I got rid of.
I'm saying.
It wasn't
So
a fruit tree.
I'm saying some of these laws we think, okay, there's the Gemara that talks about like the famous laws, killing, stealing, Shabbos, Pesach, and then there's these laws that the Gemara has nothing to say. No. There's plenty to say on the subject. You can move a tree, and you could cut down a tree if it's causing damage, right? And how much damage? It's the whole thing, right? So the people that want to protect the environment, for example, right? The question is, there's always a trade-off. That's the way life is. Do you remember, the actor Sacha Baron Cohen?
Yep.
So he had a show a long time ago in England called Ali G. You know what I'm talking about? Ali G was a show, skits, where he gets dressed up as different characters before he made movies, and he would just go drive people insane. So one thing, he gets dressed up as a gangster, right? And he goes and he drives people crazy. So he goes over to a guy who's a vegetarian, and he says, "Are you going to eat this chicken?" He says, "No way, God forbid, I would never do such a thing. It's a living being and everything else." "Wow, you never eat chicken?" "Wow, respect. Now what if I tell you, if you don't eat the chicken, I'm going to kill you?" So the guy says, "No, every living thing is equal. Why is my life?" Wow, that's respect. That's commitment. He says, "What if I tell you, if you don't eat this chicken, I'm going to kill another chicken?" The guy's like, he just drives people crazy. Anyway, right, so there's always the trade-off, right? But so there are cases you can take down. So baltashchis is needless waste. It's not any waste, because sometimes there's gonna be waste. Okay, So the and by the way, even a tree that doesn't bear fruit, you can't just go destroy trees. So everybody, because the Torah is God's wisdom, everybody finds something in the Torah that talks to them. Environmentalists love this. Oh, you see, you can't cut down trees. The tree huggers love this one, and even let's say not fruit bearing trees, you can't just go and cut them down. Why? Because you bought a new, the steel chainsaw, and you want to try it out. You can't just go. It doesn't work that way.
Here in Pembroke Pines, you better get a permit.
Yeah,
Now you build that.
exactly.
And if you take that tree down, you gotta put two up.
You
Yeah,
gotta put another one up.
unless it's
No.
dead. Yeah,
No,
yeah,
No.
yeah, too.
I only had to replace.
Maybe because your tree was giving you problems.
Yeah.
They punish you if you want to take down the tree for no reason, then you gotta put two up. Yeah. Anyway, so this is the laws about Tashchis is very interesting. So now let's get into the way the Gemara. So the Gemara says, "My diksiv." This text start. Sorry for the jolt. My diksiv. What does it mean? This is Gemara in Tainus. What does it mean when it says ki adam etasad? The person is the tree, like a person in the field. I mean, what is the Torah saying here? Do we really think a human being is like a tree in the field? By the way, on a side note, the idea of not giving a boy a haircut until 3 comes from here. Just like, are you familiar with the mitzvah or the commandment? I say mitzvah, by the way, it doesn't mean good deed. The mitzvah of Orla, Ayin Reish Lamed Hey, or Orlah, Orla. Orla is you plant a tree the first 3 years you can't have the fruit. The 4th year you can. It's because the Torah over here compares man to a tree in the field. So that's where the minhag comes from. By the way, no, that's the minhag is kabbalistic in nature, brought down. But where's the biblical reference? It's explicit. The Torah says you can't do it. Then there's remes. The Torah, says it by not saying it, right? Like for example, the most obvious example is the Torah says a man can't sleep with his granddaughter. And then the Torah, but the rabbis say, how come it doesn't say about his daughter? Well, if you can't sleep with your granddaughter, you can't sleep with your daughter, right? It says it without saying it, right? And then there's something which not in the Torah. It's not a remez. It's an idea in Kabbalah, but there's a smach. I mean, we can refer to a Torah idea of it, right? Okay, so this is better just on the side. It's totally okay. Truth is, it's a very short class, and I have to fill the time, so I'm okay. So the Gemara says. So the Gemara says the explanation is as follows. One pasuk says you can eat from them, and you should not cut it down. The other verse says you can destroy it and cut it down. So which one is it? Cut it, don't cut it. So the Gemara answers, I say, if a tree is like a Torah scholar. If it's a good Torah scholar, you can eat from it, meaning you can learn from him. And if the scholar is not refined, because you have people that know a lot of stuff, but their character is miserable. But if he's not refined, cut it out. What does it mean? It doesn't mean, oh, I saw you littering, even though you're a genius. You get to throw him in the Hudson. No, it doesn't. That's not, cut it down over here means you stay away from it. So what's the Gemara? What's the Gemara really trying to say over here? What is the Gemara trying to compare people to plants? I mean, yeah, people need oxygen, plants need oxygen, people grow. There are a lot of similarities, but that's what the Gemara. That's what you came to tell me. That's similarities, and your answer is about scholars.
The answer is about what?
A scholar. If it's a good scholar, learn from him. If it's not a good scholar.
Actually, humans have
Are you going to say we share 99% with trees too? With DNA? Okay.
No, a symbiotic relationship with trees. We breathe out carbon dioxide.
Yeah.
They breathe it in.
Everything in the world is symbiotic, by the way. The only difference is that with trees, we know about it. There is nothing in the world that if you take it out, it doesn't work. Everything in the world is interdependent. If not with this one thing, then yeah. I do this. By the way, I was driving with my kids in the car, so I have the BBC News on, and they came up with a story that in some island, I forget where, they got rid of all the mongooses. What happened? There was a problem with snakes. So I figured the mongooses are gonna kill the snakes. The problem is they forgot. It was a Japanese island. The problem is they forgot that the mongooses Mongoose is like to hunt, like to sleep at night or something, or sleep during the day, whatever it is. And the snakes are opposite. So what were the mongooses eating? They weren't eating the snakes; they were eating the rabbits. They almost polished off the whole, and had to kill the mongooses in a sense. So not here, not there. So we think we got it all figured out. Let the CEO manage his own business. All right. Anyway, so let's get into what's really going on. So first of all, we have to get a little bit midrashic over here. Kabbalistic ideas. So the Medrash, it says it, but it's expanded upon greatly in Kabbalah, that there are four categories of creation. Daimim, Tzemeach, Chai, Medaber. Daimim, Tzemeach, Chai, Medaber is Daimim is inanimate, Tzemeach is the plant life, Chai is the animal life, and Medaber is human beings. It's interesting, they put a picture of a girl for Medaber means to speak. Just, because girls are very good at that. Yeah. All right. So,
Rabbis too.
wait, listen. Listen, what happens is, at home, I don't get to say anything. I need a release. I need a release. All right, so what's the difference between the four categories? So daimim means inanimate. When you look at a daimim, it's just an object. That means the godliness, this is what the Alter Rebbe says in text number 3, it's a long text. He says the godliness in there is very limited. That's why it doesn't move, it doesn't grow. And when you look at it, you say, it's just a. Is there anybody that says save the rocks? No one's doing a save that. You see save the elephants, and you see save the whales, and whatever it is, save the trees. No one's going crazy for rocks, right? And even water, we don't care about water, we care about ourselves.
People who are concerned about erosion would be saying something about saving the rocks.
No, but they care about themselves. They don't care about the rocks. To them, it's just a rock. If you could put more rocks and more sand, there wouldn't be a problem. What's the problem? The problem is not enough rocks and sand. They don't care about
You
that.
break the rock down enough, it becomes sand.
Yeah, there you go, right? By the way, there's a big problem. The world's running out of sand. We're using up more sand than the world can make. Yeah, it's a whole...
That's because we don't care about the rocks.
we don't, right? Because
We should care more about it.
we should. We should. I'm saying, but
Explain the high price of sand for the sandbox.
exactly. So that's the daimim. Then semech. What's semech?
You had to buy sand for his sandbox.
Yeah. So it's, then there's semech. What's semech? Semech is plant life. When you look at a plant, it grows. You can see life, right? There's more of an attachment. Right? We referenced in previous classes this famous study they did. You speak to plants nice, they grow, right? Evil, they will. They're.
But does the word have anything to do with like making
Semech
one
means-
happy or?
Submit. No. Yeah, I see. This is tzamach vav memches. You're thinking happy is sin
Sin, yeah.
memches. This is the problem when we don't pronounce the letters properly. I mean Ashkenazim, and it's right. We don't pronounce letters properly. So the sin, the sin and the tzaddik kind of get. Yeah, that's why it's so important, the spelling of the word.
It's
Yeah.
difficult when you're lip reading because they both look exactly the same.
Sin and tzaddik. Yeah. So tzemeach means to grow. So tzemeach, there's more life. Chai, animals, right? They grow, they move about, they here and there, they have emotion, right? Animals feel pain, right? And then there's human beings. Human beings have everything. If you like my kids, you sit on the couch and do nothing the whole day. That's the daimim. They're inanimate, right? Unless you pull them off the iPad, right? And they don't stop eating, so they grow. Right? They're a bunch of chayas, a bunch of animals. And at night, they're medaber. They don't be quiet, right? So my kids are. Right? So now, if the level of the four categories, right? Inanimate plant, animal, and human being. Why does the Torah compare a human being to a plant?
Because they're alive.
So is an animal alive.
Yeah.
In fact, more people act like animals than act like plants.
So why not to compare all three together?
Okay, so obviously there's something to it. Okay, So here we have to get into an idea discussed in Chassidus a lot.
Oh, well, two of the three have brains.
2 of the 3 have what plants and animals. I know. I'm kidding.
Humans and- Are you sure?
Right, yeah.
Or should I explain?
You know, since it's election season, it's worthwhile to say this joke. It's not a joke. It's a true line. I don't remember who said it. Somebody in the late 1800s, early 1900s. He said, if you're not a liberal in your 20s, you have no heart. If you're not a conservative in your 40s, you have no brains. Again, anyway, again, when he said it, I don't know if liberal and conservative meant the same thing, but it's a good line. Anyway, so let's get into what's the difference between the plants and the animals and human beings. But we're going to use a specific example of an animal, a fish. A fish, or fishes, right? A fish.
Dog.
A fish.
Dog.
A dog. A fish is constantly connected to its source of life. It has to be. It's constantly aware of its source of life. The water. It never wants to leave the water because it never wants to be disconnected from its source of life. As opposed to an animal. An animal goes here, goes there. Obviously, it's true, we also need oxygen to breathe, but we're not conscious of it. Right? Sometimes you hold your breath until your brain says, bad idea. Right? But sometimes we don't. We forget, or we put ourselves in bad situations because we forget about breathing. Ask those guys who went down in submersible, right? So a fish though, and this is what like a tree. A fish is always connected to its source of life, always. So far, so good. What's wrong? You're making faces to me. What's your problem? What did I say?
We don't forget to breathe.
I know we don't forget to breathe. That's not what I said. Stop thinking of
You
questions and listen.
consciously stop breathing.
No, what I'm saying is we're not. No, what I'm saying is we don't think about it. We don't think about our life source. We take it for granted.
I'm
Meaning-
thinking about having some water.
You take a fish out of water. When does it start to wiggle? When
The minute it comes
the
out.
second it comes out. Why? Because a fish is always aware, conscious, aware of its life source. It never wants to be disconnected from its life source. An animal and a human being are not like that.
Why would you say the fish is aware?
I don't mean aware like he's aware. You go to the fish, like you want to come up to the water? I said, no. I don't mean like.
They're flying fish, they come out of the water.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then there's other fish that go on the
I hate to-
land.
I hate to
They-
get-
And there's some birds go into water too.
I hate to get biological here.
Oh,
But
boy.
you have
Get
an
out.
autonomic system, right? The fish has it, you have it. As such, certain life processes do happen automatically.
Right.
So you don't necessarily have to think about it.
Right.
So the fish and the human may be similar in that respect.
Yes, I
Is that
understand.
what you're trying to
What
say?
I'm trying to say is that the fish is always connected to its life force. And okay, let's stick with the tree. Okay, the tree is always connected to its life force. No matter how high it goes, it's always has to be connected. The moment it's disconnected from its life force, it dies. Fish also.
Is the tumbleweed dead?
By the way,
No,
humans
no.
too. I mean,
Humans,
I mean, if it keeps on tumbling.
But we're not aware of it. The point. Listen, the idea we're trying to bring out over here.
okay.
The idea we're trying to bring out over here is that the fish, for example, represent angels. Angels are in the sea of godliness.
Yeah, I used to have angelfish, yeah.
I have no idea what that is.
oh, that hurt.
I don't even know what that is. Okay,
An angelfish?
An angelfish?
Yeah.
They're beautiful.
is it
It's a-
is it related to gefilte? I don't
It's a
know.
flat fish that swims like this, it's got beautiful coloring on it, and you keep them in your aquarium, it's a tropical fish.
Very
Two
often,
fins
sort of have
sweep
triangular
back
shape.
like
Yeah,
that.
there's a few varieties.
I'm sorry. Is this a National Geographic class? Be quiet.
You're talking about fish?
You're talking about fish. Animals.
All right, so a gefilte fish.
So we're talking about angels now.
Hold on a second. No, everything in the world represents something in the spiritual realm.
Okay.
Okay. So just like an angel is always immersed in its source of life, the water, and so too.
Where you said an angel is immersed in water?
No, the fish
The
is
fish.
immersed in its source of life, the water.
The water.
An angel is immersed, so to speak, in a sea of godliness, and it's aware of it. That's why an angel doesn't do anything wrong. That's why an angel doesn't have any free will. Even though, like we learned in Tanya, you and I, even though it's true that we're all in the sea of godliness, and we're all dependent on godliness, but we're not aware of it. The angel is, right? That's that's the unique thing about what?
Do you want water?
Sure, thanks. That's the unique thing. Let's look at how the Rebbe explains it in text number 4. Here we go. The Rebbe says, this is exactly what makes Tzemeach, plant life, unique vis-a-vis fish. They grow away from the source. The fish is in the source. But the tree, thank you, the tree grows away from the source. Certainly trees, which grow to be very tall, and yet they always remain connected through their roots to their source, namely the ground, and its powers to generate growth. So trees have something that the fish doesn't. It has an element of fish, and it has an element of land. And on one hand, it's always connected to its source, like the fish, but the fish never goes away, never strays from its source of life. The tree, however, grows up, it grows away. The sequoias are all the way up there, but it has to be connected. Down there. As long as it's connected, it won't fall. The famous story. I'd be worth it to say the story. It's a good story. There was a great man who lived in Poland, I think, and the town was called Parmishlan. You ever heard of Parmishlan? Not Parmesan, Parmishlan. And he was a Hasidic Rebbe, and his name was Reb Meir from Parmishlan. And there was a legend about him that he would take the same route to the mikveh. Well, it was mikveh or it was the lake, whatever, the river, every single day. River, summer. Now in the summer, when there was no snow, you walk up the hill, walk down the hill, no problem. But in the winter, when it was covered with snow and ice, it was quite a feat. Everyone else had to walk around. He walked up and down. So it came these two young guys, these two non-believers, and they said this legend can't be true. And they say we're going to show that we can walk up the hill, down the hill. Reb Meir ain't that special. So they tried walking up and down the hill, and they fell, hurt themselves pretty badly, and they came to ask Reb Meir forgiveness. And they said, Rabbi, explain to us. We're young guys, and we fell and hurt ourselves. You're an older guy. No offense, but how come you don't fall? So Reb Meir said, when a person is connected up there, he doesn't fall down here. Reb Meir is connected up above, he doesn't fall down. When you're connected to your source, you don't fall. That's what a tree represents. It grows very far away, but on the other hand, it's connected to its source. Now, there's an idea that I think you're gonna like this. Next idea. There's an idea brought up in Medrash and Kabbalah. It's mentioned in the Gemara, but it's expanded upon in the Medrash, that a person is called a small world. Everything you see out there, you have inside you. There's a representation of it. And look, if you look at text number 5, the Medrash talks about it. The Medrash says like this. So Hashem planted forests, we have here. Hashem, there's wind, there's scent, we have scent. The salt water, we have tears. It goes through there's a whole long list of the Medrash. Others that are Nassim, which by the way, I have the book over here if anyone wants to read it. We have wood. There's wood in the world. Wood is inanimate, or wood in human beings. So now that it ends off. Now that you see that everything Hashem created in the world, we said when He said let's create man in our image and our likeness. Everything is inside the human being. Now Chassidus takes it a step further. Not only do we have everything from the material world that's a representation in our body, Al says we have it in our soul too. Our soul has the 4 levels, the 4 life levels of inanimate, daimim, plant, tzemeach, animal, chai, and medaber, speaking individual. Okay, and let's learn text number 6, nice and easy, and we'll go through it. In the author it says, just as the medaber human being contains other levels, David Tzvei on a physical level, so too he has it in his soul. The most outward expression levels of a soul's expression are, like we learned in chapter 4 of Tanya, the levushim. Levushim are the garments of the soul, which are, just like garments are interchangeable, garments are not alive. Garments express what's going on inside. So garments are daimim. So how do you express yourself? Thought, speech, and action. Is that you? Are you your thoughts? Are you your speech? No, they're interchangeable. They don't grow. One speech doesn't grow into another speech. One thought doesn't lead into another thought. Once something has been said, these words cannot grow into something else. It's possible to think or say something else. In fact, it's possible to think one thing and say another thing. Right? It's not. I do it all the time. When I say I like you, think I mean it? No. Anyway. But that's, it says, but that is a new expression of the soul's essence, right? So the thought, speech, and action are the inanimate part of you. Everyone got that? Right? It makes sense? Yep. Now, emotions, yeah, you good? Yeah. Emotions are tzemeach. Emotions are tzemeach, they grow. Meaning, the things you got emotional over when you were younger are not the same things you get emotional over now. I sure hope not. Right? Like, I once heard Rabbi gave a great example. So one time when I was 4 years old, I wanted to show my tati that I loved him. So I took my hand and I drew a picture. And, and I said, heart, I love you, tati. And he pinned it up on his wall. He said, now I'm 50 years old, I wanted to show my tati I love him. So I put my hand, all right, I sent it to him. He called me up, says, everything okay? Right? I mean, because your emotions change, your emotions grow, right? You go over to a kid and says, you want to do this? I'll give you either a pack of gum or $100. I'll take the pack of gum. He doesn't.
There was a show on TV that dealt with that.
Oh yeah.
The parents would earn these huge prizes and big money and everything else like that, and the teddy bear. And then they'd ask the little kid, okay, it's your turn.
Oh, the kid would choose the prize.
The kid would choose the prize. And invariably the kid would take the teddy bear over the thousands and thousands of
Now
dollars
imagine
of
the
prize.
TV show wouldn't have risked all that money. If they didn't know that. Usually the kid would. Yeah. So your emotions grow. Intellect
For all the details.
says intellect is chai. Intellect is alive.
It's a lousy show.
So what does that mean? Because intellect, okay, you can't get smarter. You can't. Either you is what you is, right? And also, by the way, emotions we're going to talk about later. You can't change your emotions. You change how you express them. But if you're a nice guy, you're a nice guy. If you're a serious person, you're a serious person. I mean, right? If you're more of a disciplinarian, that's who you are. Sometimes these people decide, okay, from now on, I'm going to be something else. Not so easy.
Your character is your character.
Yeah, thank you. Your character. Now, your intellect's like an animal. Just like an animal can, start here and go there. Same thing with your intellect. You can think, and from that, and you can sit there and ponder and ponder and ponder, and from this one idea, you can develop another idea, and it can take you to many different places. That's why your intellect is considered like an animal, in that idea that the animal can move about. So intellect also progresses and moves. That analogy, it makes sense.
Does that run countercurrent to what you said though? Like you're only as smart as you're smart.
Yeah, ultimately, your capacity for intellect is limited. So, for example, one person, you could tell. I'm saying, so one person, you can tell them 1 plus 2 is 2. Why 1 plus 1 is 2. Another person can say, oh, from the fact that you told me 1 plus 1 is 2, I can learn out that 1 times 2 is 3. And then
Right.
That's-
So does that make you smarter?
there are different types of smarts.
They're street smarts.
No, I'm saying there's how fast you process information smart.
In order to process information, you have to have a certain base of learning.
I know, but I'm saying, but in Chassidus talks about this, Gemara talks about this, that there's something where you can take one idea, and you can get deep into that idea, and and then you can expand from that idea. One is depth, and one is width. Width is you relate this idea to other ideas. Now the true genius can go deep, wide, and twist it around. I think I told you. I don't know if I told you the story. When I got tested for smicha, so I had 4 tests: basar v'chol, meat and milk, taruvas mixtures, malicha salting, and the last one was Shabbos. Now the rabbi who gave us the test was an expert in halacha Shabbos. He wrote a book. In fact, the Code of Jewish Law of the Alter Rebbe is printed with his notes. The guy was a genius. He passed away. He used to be the Rebbe of Kfar Chabad. Crazy genius. So we don't even have to know the whole
When was he
thing.
the Rabbi Kfar Chabad?
What?
When?
I don't know.
In the late 60s?
No. Later. It was 80s, 90s. Maybe not in the 80s. 90s.
She was-
90s.
60s.
So we had to learn like 35. It's called chapters, but not chapters, whatever it is. And Hilchos Shabbos talks about a million different topics, right? There's cooking, there's carrying, there's all these different things, muksa, right? Everything. All of a sudden, this guy asks us a question from chapter 340. It starts from 250. It starts from like 240, 230 something. Our test started from 250 something, 253, I think. He asked us a question from 340 and 253. Totally not related. We look at him like, what are you talking about? One has nothing to do with the other. He says, one has nothing to do with the other. And he started going, he started weaving them together. We sat there like, oh, okay, that's why you're the genius. That's why you're sitting on that side of the desk and we're sitting over here, right? There's different types of genius. I mean, someone once asked that Pinchas Hirschbunk, who had photographic memory, and he knew the entire Gemara by heart. People did this. They would bring to him a corner of
Chet
it.
apparently.
Huh?
Chet apparently has photographic
Really?
memory.
Oh wow! So they would bring him a corner of a page of Gemara. Keep in mind, there's 2,300 pages, and every page is made up of the middle and all that. They bring him a corner of a page, and he'll tell you exactly where it was. The ones asked him and says, you know the whole Gemara by heart. So the Rebbe knows the whole Gemara by heart. What's the difference? So he said, with me, every book is like a file. When you ask me a question, I sort of have to go to the bookcase, open up the file. By the Rebbe, every book is opened. There's no delay. It's all the information is just there. There are different types of geniuses. But the Alter Rebbe, by the way, was also he was amongst geniuses. He was something. They went crazy. Even when he was 12 years old, he gave a class when he was 12 years old in the shul to adults on the most complicated laws of Maimonides, the laws of the calendar. It's all mathematics. It's a 19-year cycle. It's all mathematics, and people who were going just. He was 12 years old. Yeah, I mean, but we went totally off the subject. I think it's something to do with Ariel. But the difference is, see, emotion. So the intellect, it starts here and it goes from here to here. In fact, many times we're talking about something. How do you get there? I don't remember. One conversation leads to the other conversation, But emotions are always connected to the source. You can't have an emotion you have no idea about, right? If let's say I have love for something, and and then I forget about whatever it is, right? I see my kid, I feel love for the kid, and then a little bit later, I said, I'm in a good mood, and someone says, Why are you in a good mood? I don't remember. You remember. Because the emotions are always connected to the source. Oh, check out this. It's a very good. It's a very nice book or series of articles. Text number 7, cognitive dissonance. So he says, considering the following hypothetical. We'll get to this in a second. Hypothetical situation. I didn't discuss Keter. We'll get back to Keter in a second. So you have a guy who's an environmentalist, right? And he cares about the environment every day. He drives his electric car to get his coffee, paper straw. There you go. His paper straw, obviously, or reusable straw, obviously, whatever it is. Then he goes to a lecture about the environment, and they tell him that harvesting of coffee beans is bad for the environment and drinking whatever it is. Now he has a whole problem. One hand, he loves the environment. On the other hand, he loves his coffee. Red French roast, French vanilla, frappuccino, right? If you give it an Italian name, it's automatically better. Remember Jackie Mason's joke about shirts? He says you have to give it a European name. If it doesn't have a European name, Americans and Jews won't buy it. You ever see anyone go over? You see the shirt? Arkansas shirt, right? So you have to have a fancy name to your coffee. The problem is the guy has a whole problem now. On one hand, he cares about the environment. On the other hand, he loves his coffee. So what do? And the guy doesn't know what he's talking about. The guy doesn't know what he's talking about. It's fake news, or what's my coffee gonna do? Basically, he decides I'm keeping my coffee, or I do so many other things for the environment. My one cup of coffee is not gonna make a difference, right? What happened? It's because he loves his coffee. He can't part with it. That means the emotion impacts the intellect. 2 minutes ago, before you said you love chicken. Yeah. Would you kill a chicken? Absolutely not. But what if I tell you, if you don't eat this chicken, I'm killing another chicken? Right now you got a problem. You love coffee? Yeah. But what if I tell you now that coffee is impacting the environment? Now what do?
You upset it. That's all.
No, you pay someone else. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There you go. So now, and this is what the Rebbe is going to expand in text number 8. Remember Keter. We're going to get to it in a second. The Rebbe says that just like a plant, emotions are always connected. That's why you can't change who you are. You can change what you think, and you can change what you learn, but you can't change your character. If you're a nice person, yeah, maybe there'll be a time where you act not nice. But if you're a nice person, you're gonna have a reputation as a nice person, right? And if you're not a nice person, people are gonna find out about it. And look at what the Rebbe says in text number. We're behind. The Rebbe says in text number 8. He says, this is why emotional tendencies are so immutable, so much that it's so difficult to change them. It is very difficult for a person who is naturally kind to become a disciplinarian and vice versa. Now, so we spoke about the part of your soul that's inanimate. That's inanimate, which is your thought, speech, and action, which doesn't mean anything. We spoke about the emotions, which is the plant. We spoke about the intellect, which is chayna. What's the medaber? The medaber is the core you. The medaber is the keter. What's keter? Keter is a crown that sits above your head.
It's a young.
Right. No, but it's surrounding. It's the core you. Are you your intellect? No. How do you know? Because you learn new things all the time. You forget things all the time. Are you your emotion? No. You can act in a certain way. When I say you, if I tell my kid, I love you, what am I saying? I love you because you're 6 and you're cute. But when you're 7, then what's it up, right? When you turn 18, hand in your credit card, right? Oh shoot. Yeah.
Just reminded yourself.
Yeah, no, I have to call the car insurance, take my daughter off the insurance. There's a God. But when you say you, or I say I, there's a, what's it talking about over there? When Hashem gave us a Torah, he said, I am God. What was he talking about over there? When we say Baruch Atah, Ata is higher than your name, right? Ishtabach Shimcha. Blessed is your name, right? But there's a higher level to that, right? That's the medaber. The medaber is the level that encompasses all of it. All right, we're a little bit. Let's finish off a little quickly. I mean, it's true that we started late. So generally, usually, a person should try to act with their emotions affected by your intellect. That's what you're supposed to be. Usually, right? Your emotions should be controlled by your intellect. Your intellect shouldn't be controlled by your emotions. Then you have, but each one has its advantage. If a person's only intellectual, no emotional, then what do you get? You get a heartless human being. Sometimes you have to have compassion. In the famous legend, they say it's not true. But it's a good legend anyway. So, like I once heard from one historian, stories don't have to be true. It's the lesson. The famous story with LaGuardia.
That's why we call them stories.
Yeah, the famous story of LaGuardia, Mayor LaGuardia, when he was also a judge, and it was a cold night, and he relieved the night judge, and it was an older lady that was brought up in front. Why? Because she stole bread. And he asked why he stole bread. Because he says, my daughter's sick, my son-in-law ran away, and I have the grandkids at home, and we don't have no money. This was, when was he mayor? The 30s, I think, right? 20s, 30s. Yeah. So LaGuardia turns to the baker and says, "You really going to press charges against her?" She says, "But Judge, otherwise we have San Francisco, where people can steal and it's chaos, or Denver, right? It's absolute chaos. We have to make an example." So LaGuardia said, "Yo, everyone, you're right. How much does she owe you? 15 cents or 10 cents?" He says, "Okay, you have to get it." And he took out of his pocket, the 10 cents, and he fined everybody in the city, everyone in the courtroom, a penny, whatever it was, for the fact that you have there's someone in the city, you have a neighbor who's starving and no one cares. That's the story. Whether it's true or not doesn't make a difference. The fact of the matter is that you have intellect without emotion, you get Nazi Germany. You understand? You can't just have. So now let's go back to the Gemara. Now the Gemara is asking, what is a person? Is a person a tree in the field? What kind of tree? What kind of tree are you? Are you only intellect? You have emotions. I mean, animals have emotions. We don't. That's not. So the superior quality of human beings is they have intellect. Says why? So why does Torah say a person's like a tree? Because they grow. Animals also like a tree. What's the Torah trying to tell us over here? Let's look how the Rebbe explains it. We can really learn a lesson. Text 9a says, and this is what the Gemara's question is the tree of a field a person? It's true the human being has certain aspects that are similar to a tree, growth, emotions, but are they the defining characteristics of human being? So it says that an animal is all emotion. You can't tell an animal stop being emotional. Control your rage. Go to a lion and say, calm down. You go to a monkey and say, can we please talk about it? Obviously not, right? The idea of a human being is we can go to human being and say, listen here, let's sit down. Let's talk about it. You can figure out a way that your intellect should impact your emotion. That's is it hard work? Yeah. It's hard work, but that's what it means. And the Rebbe continues, and he says, they gave you the answer first. The answer, Torah calls human beings emotional beings because under the influence of intellect, one's emotions are superior. And this is what the Rebbe says. Text 9b, page 92. The ultimate goal of human intellect is to affect their emotions, and their emotions should be dictated by intellect. This specifically is the ultimate height of the human being can reach. Not that you're only intellectual, not that you're very emotional. The idea is you should be a complete person. So the idea is when they're both. So let's get back to the question. No, sorry. Before we get to the question, so the Rebbe says Rebbe says in text 10. So the people who are learning Torah the whole day, they have to realize that just studying is not enough. I know it's late, but you can imagine, by the way, why when the Baal Shem Tov came up with this idea, there was such pushback. Who were the greatest Jews at the time? People who learn Torah the whole day. But let's say you're a guy that can't learn Torah. You never given an opportunity, or you weren't given the capacity. The Eibishter, right? Eibishter sent this neshama into a poor family, or didn't give him the head. So basically, you're a loser. You have no role in Judaism. Comes the Baal Shem Tov and says, if you serve Hashem with emotion, everyone can feel love and awe of God. Everyone can daven. Davening is something everyone can do. Learning, not everyone can do. So you're doing something greater than them. They're missing something. Now imagine you're a scholar back in 1738. For the past few hundred years, you've been the elitist, right? You've been the 1%, so to speak. And now there comes this guy, and he's saying that that these nobodies, they're better than you, or they complete you. How can this shmendra complete me? What do I need him for? When I don't daven, I also daven. But this is what Chassidus is saying. Just to have intellect is not enough. The idea is you have to have emotion. That means, I'm sure you guys, don't answer this question. How many religious people have you met in your life and said, that's what religion teaches you? They're orthodox, but they're a piece of garbage. I'm sure we've all met once or twice. And you walk away thinking, says, what's your religion, what's all your scholarship worth if this is the way you're going to act? Right? The Ramban Nachmanides coined a phrase. He says you could be a law-abiding degenerate. It's better in Hebrew. A menuvel minater. Menuval means a low-based person. Minater, meaning he keeps all the laws. He's 100% observant. But that's not the whole point. The whole point is that the Torah study should fuse the two. Now, to answer the question. So when a person has inspiration, right, and he feels good, and then it goes away, is that false? No, because we just finished saying that emotion comes from you, and not only that, emotion is always connected to you, but emotions come and go, right? So when a person feels inspired, that's not a foreign idea. That's coming from you. The problem is that it's not sustained. All right, okay, it takes. Someone once asked, says, why do I got to daven every day? Or why should I daven? I davened yesterday. So I answered the guy, ate breakfast yesterday? Right? If I tell you, he asked me, so imagine I asked you, why are you eating breakfast today? You ate breakfast yesterday. Every day is a different day. Oh, okay. So that's the way you have to, there's something new every day. So what the Rebbe Rashab is saying here, the fifth Chabad Rebbe, Shalom Dever, saying, he says, true conviction is experienced emotionally. By contrast, if you don't feel it, I remind myself of a great story. This story really drives the point home. In the El Tag, in the old days, in the shtetl, most people couldn't read Russian or Polish. They only knew how to read Hebrew. So there was always one guy in the town that knew. And whenever a telegram came, they had to go to him, and that was his moment to feel superior. So he would make a whole show. He would put on his spectacles, right, clear his throat, because now he was a big knacker. So one time a guy gets a big telegram, and he goes to the guy. And the guy goes to the whole, spectacles, clearing his throat, and he reads in a telegram. This guy's father died. So the guy faints. So the guy reading the telegram says, what are you fainting for? You didn't read anything. I read it. I'm the one that should faint. So the guy says, idiot, but it's my father. Intellect doesn't mean anything. What the Rebbe Rashab is saying is, emotion drives the point home. If you don't feel it, you're lacking. True conviction is experienced emotionally. By contrast, intellect is subject to change. For the entire function, like the Rebbe said, in pre-World War II Germany, everybody was quoting Goethe and Nietzsche, right? Everybody was very intellectual. Naturally, by breaking it down is weakened. Moreover, with multiplicity, nuance comes opportunity to be convinced otherwise. If you understand it, if you understand something, but this is why we need to make Judaism enjoyable. So it's important to have classes, but we need to have Judaism enjoyable. And the whole idea of the event is not to learn anything, it's just to have a positive Jewish experience. Right? Why? Because you want people to feel proud of their Judaism. Then someone comes to them and say, oh, but what about this? What about that? I don't care. I associate Judaism with good. By contrast, emotions are the very nature of the soul, namely the expression of the soul's essence that lies beneath all other capacities. It is this core essence of the soul, higher than a specific expression, that dictates the way a person feels viscerally, viscerally feel. This essence is immutable, even if it may be indiscernible at times. You can change your intellect, what you think, but you can't change your emotion. That's what you are. And end off with the famous story. It's funny. I actually told the story today, without knowing it was in today's class. It's a famous story. There was a guy who lived in the early 1900s, and he was a chassid of the Rashab. In those days, the Jews would dress distinctly from the Gentiles. They'd sit this out, long jacket. But this guy was a big businessman, and when he dealt with the Gentiles, he had to wear a suit, a short jacket, a suit. So when he would be dealing with the Gentiles, he would wear a suit. When he came back to Lubavitch, to the Rebbe, he would wear a kapata. One day he says, I spend most of my time in business, and I wear a suit. And when I come to the Rebbe, I put on a kapata. Who am I fooling? The Rebbe is a tzaddik. The Rebbe knows exactly who I am. So the next time he came to Lubavitch, he put on a suit. He walks into the Rebbe. The Rebbe says to him, "You think I don't know you wear a suit? I knew the whole time you wear a suit. But here I thought the kapata was the real you, and the suit was the external you. Now you come and you show me that the suit is the real you." You cut that guy down to size, right? If you see at the end of text 12, he says, "Until now I thought you were a chassid trying to fool the business world. Now I see you're a businessman trying to fool the chassid." Right? It's a powerful. The Rebbe Shah, by the way, was known to. I mean, yeah. So this is what this is what it is. So you have people that are emotional, that intellectual, but if it doesn't permeate their entire being, the Torah says, the Gemara says, stay away from such a person. It's dangerous, right? A person that he's a complete person, emotional and intellect goes together. Oh, that's a person you can eat from. You can enjoy his fruit. All right, key points. Oh, so to answer the question, by the way, we finish off. When you get inspiration, it fades. Don't feel dejected because it's coming from the real you. All right. The key points. Number one, the world is divided into 4 categories. Human beings are micro worlds of these four levels, on the physical level and on the soul level. The intellectual faculty of the soul is called chai, and is not connected to the soul in any apparent way. But the emotional is called samech. And just like a tree is always connected to its source, so too the emotion is always connected to its source. By the way, on a side point, just to drive the point home, why did Hashem ask Avram to sacrifice his kid? Out of all the things he could have asked him, why that? So the Chassidus explains, because Avram by nature was a nice person. So everything he was doing it because that was his nature. What if Hashem asks Avram to do something that's really not nice? Barbaric. It goes against the very core of his nature. That's why it was a test, because it went against Avram's nature. It's emotion. So the greatest accomplishment a person can have is to use their intellect to harness their emotion. That's what makes you a mensch. Our inspiration is an expression of our emotions, and by extension, the essence of our soul, even if it fades. So if it fades, you're working yourself in. And the next time will be easier to awaken that inspiration. Any questions? Not you, you spoke too much. All right, have a good week.